Have you ever seen a picture of a gown and thought, I want to make that? If you're on this channel, there's a good chance you have. There's also a good chance that you aren't built like the figures in the fashion plates. Hi! I'm Melissa Case from Hat to Hem, and I know exactly what that's like. I'm 5 feet tall, on a good day. Meanwhile, fashion plates tend to be built more like Barbies. I'm not shaming Barbie. I've always loved Barbies. But that doesn't change the fact that I am not built like one. When you're recreating a fashion plate or a cosplay, it would be so easy to just go by some exact measurements of where things should be. You can think, oh, her flounce is 10 inches long, so mine should be 10 inches long. The problem is, you're likely not the same height. You might have less or more canvas to work with. If you go by those exact measurements for somebody else, you might end up with too much empty space, or things might look a little cluttered. Either way, it can look uneven. That's why, for items that you're wearing out and about, I think it's more important to be right than accurate. Hopefully no one is going to run up to you with a picture of your inspiration and say, excuse me, that bow is 3 inches off. However, people are more likely to subconsciously clock if something looks a little bit off visually. So, how do we get things to look right while also looking like we reproduced an image? It all comes down to proportions. And luckily, there's an easy way to find them. Is this gonna work every time? I don't know. But it's always worked for me, which is why I wanted to share it with you. The first thing you want to do is find the length or the width of the garment that you want to work with. For example, if it's a bodice, you might want to go from shoulder to waist. You can break it down further and go from shoulder to wrist or elbow if it's sleeve. I'm going to be making trim for a skirt, so I'm going to go from waist to floor. I'm also making a half scale dress, so my measurements will be smaller than they would be on an actual person, but the same theory still applies. Next, you're going to take the same measurement on your reference image. You're going to measure the items that you're recreating. If you need it, you can also measure where to put an item. I'm going to figure out the width of this pleated ruffle at the bottom of this dress. Now for the math. And yes, we're using fractions. Your first fraction is for the reference image. You're putting the full length measurement of the reference image on the bottom, and the other number for the item that you're making or placing on top. For your second fraction, you're putting your full length measurement on the bottom and leaving the top blank. Now we're going to use the butterfly method. We're going to multiply the top of the first fraction by the bottom of the second fraction. In my case, it's 0.5 and 19, and I get 9.5. Next, we're going to divide that number by the bottom number of the first fraction, which for me is 3.5. I then plug that number into the top of the second fraction. I'm going to round up to the nearest quarter inch to make life easier, which means my finished pleated ruffle will be 2.75 inches wide. However, since the lace flounce overlaps the pleated ruffle, I'm going to add another quarter inch and make it a 3-inch ruffle. Just for fun, let's run through this all again using my actual measurements. I want my skirt to be 41 inches long. I would multiply that by 0.5 and divide it by 3.5. That means my pleated ruffle should be 5.857 inches long, which I'll likely round up to 6 inches. Frankly, I do think that looks about right. And also, since the half-inch ruffle came up at 3 inches, the math checks out. Now there are more calculations for getting the right yardage for a pleated ruffle, but that's a topic for another video. I used the same calculations for the lace ruffle, which luckily was the same width I was able to buy. What do you think? Does it look right when you compare it to the picture? Let me know in the comments. I hope you found this video helpful. Thank you to my patrons for funding these short tutorials. If you're not already, I hope you'll subscribe to my channel and click that little bell icon next to the subscribe button so you're notified when I post the making of this half-scale ball gown, especially since it's the design my viewers voted for. Until then, I'll see you next time. Bye!